This video is the first of a two-part series on the timeline in Easy Video Lab version 2. We're in version 2.0.8 as I record this. If you looked at an earlier video, we've added some features to Easy Video Lab 2, and so I needed to kind of basically cover all of those. So do check this out again for all the keyboard shortcuts and all and so forth. So in the first part of this video, we're going to take a look at just the kind of top part of the timeline here. You can see that we have a bar, it's anchored at the bottom, and we have these blocks here and the layers, and we'll be taking a look at that in the second video. But in the first video, we're going to take a look at just this first part up here, the timeline, and working with the playback head and keyboard shortcuts for that. So we have a divider right here that allows us to expand and contract. It will not allow you to go up if you don't have additional layers. So we'll pop over to this real quick and we'll look at layers. We have the ability to add layers here. Now audio layers aren't provided initially, it doesn't, but you can add them. So I can add an audio layer here, and let's go ahead and also add an animation layer. And now once I have that, I can come up here to this divider. I just hover over it and I can drag it up, and it's going to allow me to see all those additional layers. But if I come up here, you see I have the ability to remove those also. It will only remove empty layers. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that audio layer and then the animation layer. And again, if I drag this down here, it will allow me to go back down, but once I come back up, I can only see the layers that I actually have. So that's this right here. Now we're going to look at this playback head here. This is this little pill, orange pill with a line through it. And if I click and drag on that, that's called scrubbing, and I'm scrubbing along the timeline to see the animation. Now we'll take a look at play and rewind and all that here in a second, but just want to point out that the upper left-hand corner of the timeline shows the time readout. So if I'm at 3.5 seconds, for example, it's going to show me roughly there. If I need to get into that, if I need to actually be at 3.5, this lets me know that I'm actually on that spot there. Now we can zoom in and out of the timeline, but let me just kind of keep from getting too far off. We'll just go across here. Now these two options here are undo and redo, and these are, as of this recording, still in work in progress. We have to get everything cleaned up, bugs and everything, before we can get undo redo working. So it might work for things here and there, but in general, this is still work in progress as I record this. So as we move along here, we have this little icon here. It takes us to our market, and this is to our freebie site. And we have some options here: nav, snap, split, freeze frame, duplicate, and delete. All of these will be covered in the next video because they're related to the blocks here. But finally, we have the ability to zoom in and out of the timeline. So I was just talking about the ability to kind of look at this, and you may basically, pardon me, kind of stumbled over myself there. You may want to be able to zoom in a little bit, and so you can do that by holding the Command key or Control on Windows and hitting the right arrow on. So if I can do that, I can zoom in and I can get a better idea, and I can get more fine tuning there. If I hold down the space bar, I can that'll let me go all the way really fast. Conversely, if I hold the left arrow, I'm going to zoom out. And so that just allows me to do fine tuning there. I can come in again and see that I'm right on that spot. It looks like I'm a little bit, fraction of a second off, but it's still registered as 3.5. And so this allows me to do fine tuning, and then I can, when I'm done, I can just zoom back out, hold down that key, and it'll zoom out and get to the point where I'm kind of able to work on this really fast and easy. So that's the zoom in and out. You can also click on these to do that as well. Now, if I finishing the timeline here, you can see that we have second marks. That's with these bigger numbers with the taller lines, and these are the smaller lines are tenths of a second. And so, if I zoom in or I zoom out, pardon me, too much, zoom in too much, I'm not going to be able to see those anymore. So there I go, I can see them now. And lastly, we have the playback. So you can rewind, you can play, you can pause, and you can go to the end. Now there's also keyboard shortcuts for this. The space bar will let you play, and that's a toggle. So if I hit the space bar again, it'll stop. Space bar again, it plays. Space bar again, it stops. Now the command or control less than sign will rewind, and the command or control in Windows will go to the end, and I can always go back. So a lot of times you'll find that you're somewhere around here and you want to add an empty block. We'll talk about that later, but you just hit command and rewind, and you'll be at the beginning, and you can start off at the beginning. Similarly, at the end, if you want to make sure that everything is kind of finishing the way you want it, you can pop to the end if you want, and then come back a little bit. Now clicking on the timeline will just jump to that spot I think I mentioned that, but I do want to mention that again. In the next video, we'll take a look at really everything down here. We'll look at anablocks, we'll look at stacking orders, what all these options are here, and all these controls here as well. And so definitely check that out, because there's a lot of goodies there for you to know about for the timeline.